50 years later, there's no doubt our world has changed and that Dr. King's passion and activism continue to affect us. Our Matt Pearl heard from the voices who are reaping the effects of Dr. King's efforts.
Free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Because I've been to the mountaintop.
How long does one's shadow stretch?
We have the right to walk to Montgomery if our feet can get us there.
How far does one voice carry?
How you doing, sir?
Doing real well.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Nice to meet you.
You're very welcome. Nice to meet you, too.
We asked the voices that extend the shadow.
My untold story about race and progress.
What's your untold story? Wow.
How the efforts of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Silent prayer.
transpire today.
I have so many thoughts on this, I don't even know where to go.
It's making you aware of what has happened in the past and what we're dealing with now.
The faces of America now have seen milestones that likely don't happen without the movement.
I have no greater honor than being your commander-in-chief.
When I was growing up, there never was a thought in my mind that we would ever see a black president.
Certainly that was a moment when we said, wow, look at what Dr. Martin Luther King started.
And the firsts and new heights have reached from the president through the people.
Back then, you might not have seen an African-American out-of-school care provider such as myself. My current job, I'm the first woman that's worked into that department, and yeah, the second African-American that's worked in that department.
I think that we're in a good place with progress. However, I think we're dealing with different battles.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of
Those battles of inequality of opportunity will seem similar to the fights of Dr. King's final months.
Something a little bit more shadowy and a little bit more systematic.
When it comes to hiring, when it comes to, wages, the biggest challenges are the subtle signs of racism.
Subtle, systematic, but sometimes not.
The shootings, the bombings, the threats.
I remind my students, don't go all out by yourself. Yeah, you might get iPhones now, but I don't want you to be caught alone.
You think of people like Sandra Bland and others, and you're just like, wow, is that still happening? Yeah, it is.
At what point do the oppressed have an opportunity to raise hell?
Activism exists as ever. Its lineage runs through Dr. King.
Black Lives Matter probably would not exist if there was no civil rights movement.
Its methods sometimes run away.
They're very different, We're not the well-dressed protester anymore.
We've gone a different direction than what we had in the 60s.
We heard that same sentiment and concern from Dr. King's daughter.
I think we're in a little bit of disarray. The first and foremost thing is we've got to find a way to collaborate better.
In his early days as a leader, Dr. King and his generation occasionally clashed with the generations before, looking to push for more rather than appreciate the ground already gained. We found a similar split here between those born in King's immediate shadow and those born far from it.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. So they'll grow up and not even think anything of the concept of a black president.
Not even think of it. They just see him as a president.
Okay, cool, we had a black president, but that doesn't really mean too much unless there's actual progress.
We're taught to believe that we're all equal now, but I don't feel like that's the case.
As you get to the age that I am, you've seen things that have happened. You've gone through things, and now you think, wow, this is so much better than what it was. But if you look at it from the eyes of a young person, and I'm sure they see that we have not even scratched the surface of what can be.
Each voice is different. Each voice carries its own distance. But the unifying theme in these voices is that we all need to listen, not just to voices as thunderous as Dr. King's, but to those all around us, living in the world King changed.
We're all still people, so we need to find a way to commune together.
There's no point at which we stop. Where we go is contingent upon where we've been.
Matt Pearl joining us now. The real theme I hear from people is so much work left to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's and you saw that split in the generations where if you were alive during King's era, you know how far things have come in the last 50 years, but for people coming up today, and for plenty who were around back then, there is still such a chasm, still such a gulf to cross. And that was a theme that came up again and again in the people that I talked to. Very, very illuminating conversations throughout.
Dr. King had such a focus that on progress, even in his efforts at the time of his assassination, really shifting towards economic inequality, seeing that a lack of opportunity equals oppression, and that is a fight still being fought today. One of the people I spoke with referred to working in inner cities and seeing what Dr. King referred to as the iron foot of oppression still very much existing today, 50 years after his death. All right. Really interesting to hear that perspective from so many people. Yeah, Matt, absolutely. Thank you so much.